Hey there, this is old Jagger, back from another far from home. Praying this one comes through loud and clear after that disastrous last episode. Apologies to anyone who tried to listen to it, and thanks to everyone who commended me lickety split to let me know my voice was extremely soft and bursts of static extremely loud. Tried my best to spread the word that audio quality was no good, but once it's released, there's not much I can do besides let y'all know to avoid it. Shame, because I had a lot of fun with that episode. I answered several of your questions, very insightful, I might add, and actually talked about something I've never brought up on the show before. Major, our old dog that followed Mom everywhere around the repair shop back when I was a youngin', don't remember much about Major besides him not liking my dad too much. Guess it doesn't matter much now since most of you won't get a chance to hear about it, but I, and I, I don't really feel like it'd be right to record it again. That's not really how this show, or whatever you call it, works. I mean, I guess the episode ain't lost. It's just not suitable for human ears. Anyways, after the issue with the last episode, I spent days trying to figure out what happened. You probably don't know this, but I actually capture all my episodes using Shanna's comm system. I know that's a weird way to do it, but I don't know the first thing about media tech and whatnot, so I figured I'd stick with what I knew. Besides, I wasn't really anticipating this to grow into what it's become. After wasting hours crawling around the ship's wiring and a bunch more on Spectrum seeking advice, I finally took Shauna to a friend for a professional opinion. Of course, she worked just fine while there, so I spent a day or so doing local hauls until it happened again, and then took Shauna straight back to that garage to prove my friend I hadn't completely lost my mind. To make a very, very long story short, well, just long, after explaining in excruciating detail what I had been experiencing and doing in those moments before the problem came back, he finally figured out the comm system had an issue with one particular circuit. Took him about 10, maybe 15 minutes to replace it, tops. Issue hasn't come back since, which I'm hoping stays true, because I'd hate to mess up another episode for y'all. Gonna guess that faulty circuit stems from my trip to Tyrol. Visited a friend I hadn't seen in ages, since she retired to Haven, actually. I call her Leggy, even though I know she hates that nickname. Anyway, Leggy was a mentor of mine. We've stayed in touch over the years, but I've been averse to visiting Tyrol due to, you know, the chance of the system going supernova. Or that I might step outside without the right protective gear and melt or something. Why anyone lives there is beyond me. But when an old friend asks you to come and see them, what else you gonna say besides, how many bottles of Bezel can I bring? Leggy gave me the lay of the land regarding local gangs and advice on what route to take and time to approach. Haven would be best. If you've never been, well, I can't say in good conscience recommend that you visit unless you know what you're getting into. But I've been there, and I can say I've never been to a place like it. Most of Haven is built into this massive canyon wall to limit its exposure to the stars. Wasn't until I was sitting in Leggy's living room halfway through a bottle of sodas and watching the sun's rays slowly shift across the canyon wall that I came to appreciate the place. When I mentioned my newfound appreciation for Haven, Leggy just smiled with tears filling her eyes. That's when she revealed something I had never expected her to say. Sorry, I'm emotional about this. She died recently. Out of respect for my friend, I won't get into specifics. But she still does hauls time from time to keep food on the table. And recent one went terribly, terribly wrong. She described walking up in a hospital, not, not only knowing she died, but feeling the after effects of it. Lucky and I talked about her experience for must have been hours. Between the topic and the second bottle of sodas, we found that deep into this philosophical debate about the new regen tech and how it's going to change humanity. Don't know exactly how, but it feels like life's never going to quite be the same. I mean, I had a full on conversation with someone who died. I'm sure many of you out there are going to say, and you're going to say this or that, and you may even had this happen to you. Or maybe someone you cared about was brought back from the dead. That's just, it's hard to wrap the mind around. Before we knew it, Tyrell's suns were rising again. We talked away the entire night. I was completely exhausted. I slept away most of the day, and Leggy took me on a little tour of Haven. We spent time with a few of her friends. I got to see the life she's built for herself. We even walked by a low rent regen station that looked like it was built by somebody blindfolded. When we got back to Leggy's place, she opened another bottle and revealed why she asked me to visit. She wanted me and Shauna to have the classic Juno Star work power plant she'd been using and tinkering with for ages. She explained that she was officially hanging up her hauling cap and knew we'd put it to good use. Gotta say, I was extremely moved. Before I could find the right words to thank her, she told me that she had one last piece of advice to pass along: to get a good imprint myself and made as soon as possible, because life's worth the price. She knew I hadn't gotten one yet and hoped her experience would convince me otherwise. I explained my personal aversion to the tech and how it felt. It made life less, well, for lack of a better word, precious. For years, I've been traveling the Empire to take in as much as possible. Every journey felt important. Every destination reached was worth celebrating because I was never sure if I'd reach it or ever see it again. I don't know. It seems like you lose the fun of taking risks, knowing that there's a backup version of myself waiting in the wings. Plus, at this age, it ain't the process will take away the aches and the pains. In fact, seeing Leggy struggle with some of the physical trauma from her incident only soured me on it more. When she mentioned all of the things that happened, she told me about the pain, the new scars, but it was worth it to see me one last time. That sure shut me up good and quick. Leggy and I spent the next day with Shauna installing the power plant. If you think I'm thorough and meticulous with my equipment, you should see Leggy. She shared this massive file with me, tracking every issue she ever had with it and the corresponding fix. As we were finishing up, she turned to me and said, "Would have hated to see this go to anyone else." It's hard for me to even kind of talk about her, like, as if she's talking. I'm working with a dead. I'm working with her, and she's doing great. Shauna and I left Haven the next day. Before going, I gave Leggy a big hug, told her I'd stay in touch and swing by again for another drink, but she waved me off. Deep down, we both knew this was goodbye. So she left me with one last thought to chew on. The fragility of life doesn't make it precious. The willingness to live, it does. It's been rattling around in my brain ever since. On some of those long haul flights, it kind of weighs deep. That thought's, you know, there. And I'm pretty sure Leggy meant that. If you're wondering, I still haven't got an imprint yet, although I almost did. Just the other day, I made this delivery to an R&R and came across a brand spanking new Regen station. Don't know how long I was standing there thinking about Leggy, but it was long enough for an employee to come out and check on me. Before he could finish his spiel about why his doodad was better than that doodad, I told him I wasn't interested, but the tech had already made my life better. Poor kid looked confused as hell as he walked away. I gotta admit, I feel the same way. I see the benefits. Maybe someday I'll get one. But for now, I'm gonna continue living this life. And it's the only one I got. Damn. Thought I found a nice spot to drift the night away, but there's some more activity around here than I expected. I hate to sign off, but I gotta find someplace a little quieter before me and Shauna run into any trouble. This is old Jagger signing off, somewhere far from home. Hey there, hope you enjoyed this dramatic reading of the Far From Home series. I try to add some emotion and feeling to them. Sometimes they're not exactly what's on the page. I improvise and make it more emotional, and also some of my pronunciations don't get completely butchered. So keep that in mind. I want to thank CIG for releasing more of this content. Lore team, you knock it out of the park a lot of times. More and more of your content from the old jump points would be recommended, but for now, this is fantastic. If just wanted to do a couple mentions because I don't have a major video coming out tonight, but if you haven't already heard, there is a fall referral bonus for the Argo cargo, the which is called the MPUF cargo. So the whole month until November 1st, if you have a friend or an workmate or somebody you tell Star Citizen about, be sure to give them your referral code because both you and them will get an Argo cargo with lifetime insurance attached. Now, this is important. It's basically a gift. You cannot melt it. You cannot trade it. It's like sitting on your account, but you can CCU off of it. This is perfect timing for anyone getting ready for the annual sale. So if you're new to the game, there are some fantastic ships that you can jump from with the Argo cargo. We're going to just really fast talk about that for a moment. I'm not logged in, so that's why you see it so weird. But if you hit all ships, you can always see all types of ships. These are the ones available this moment. In the event, there will be a lot more, but some of the recommended ones is the Pisces. You can see it's only $10 US, and that would be a nice LTI Pisces with 3 seats, a couple SCU of cargo with a nice ramp on the back. That's going to be a fantastic ship, not just now, but in the future. And this thing has a jump drive, warp drive, quantum, whatever you want to call it, that this does not. So this has legs where you can actually get on missions that will not need to rely on another ship to deliver it to the location. Later on, though, it is worth mentioning the MPUF cargo will be great for outpost work. So if you live in a general area and you have a couple org mates and friends that have outposts right near you, in the future, being able to move around in between them and drop off personnel and cargo containers, which this bottom part is replaceable. So you can put a personnel or a cargo container on the bottom. Personnel has a few jump seats. Cargo only has one jump seat on the back, and then it has a decent little bit of cargo. It has a nice little cargo grid, where the Pisces has the cargo grids on the sides of a long walkway that leads to the 3 seats at the front. Something to keep in mind. This is local. This is space-based. There are other options, but not a lot of them are available at the moment. And there is a nice ship that I would recommend. is the 315p as well. It's a little, obviously, well, big jump in cost, but this will be another one. This is getting its tractor beam very soon. So it will have advanced sensors, longer distance, has a bed, and has a tractor beam. So that's another good example. And then is the 325A available? Because it's the only other one I recommend, the combat variant. This is the combat variant of that same ship that has a nice big Gatling cannon on the front. This is an old picture because now it has a big Gatling cannon there. And it just has more teeth in general than the 315 and a combat sensor suite instead of an exploration sensor suite the 315P has. They're the type of ship I'd recommend to jump off the Argo cargo. And for older players, you know your list. That's basically the same recommendations I'd have to you if you need something to run about with, especially if you've upgraded to a Liberator or some other big ship as your main ship, and you're looking for something right now that would be good. Another option for players that kind of have everything already, or have a nice little selection, would be more niche ships. In the past, I would recommend the Cuddy Red, but that's not really a possibility at the moment. I would keep your powder dry for the annual sale. There is highly likely to be a second Anvil vehicle. That will be a really fun upgrade, especially if it's cheaper than the Ballista. It should be a lot cheaper if it doesn't have massive missiles on it. I'm assuming it won't. They're not going to build two platforms of the exact same thing that both have missiles and big cannons on them. So it should be a much cheaper variant. That would be kind of a fun thing for now, and then you can always CCU later. And the normal ones. So I keep your powder dry if you've been here a while and you've got a lot of ships to work with. But if you're looking for a runabout or you're just starting out, these are all fantastic ships. And by the way, I still use the 325A. I enjoy the 315P when I can get access to one. And the mighty but little Pisces, I still use this ship. I cannot stress enough how useful they are. And I recommend a lot of my friends to use them. They like them. Once they realize just how much versatility there is in these things. This thing is criminally underpriced for what it can do. I mean, just to give you some perspective, it's cheaper than the Rover, which is kind of baffling to me. I think vehicles are a little overpriced anyway. Topic for another day, though. So, sorry, this is kind of an overtime discussion. So if you happen to be looking at these and be looking at having one sitting in if you get your referral and it's sitting in your hangar and it's burning a hole in your pocket where you want to CCU it or do something with it or what can I do with it, here's your answers. There's some fantastic options for every group of players. There is some really cool stuff coming up with the annual sale, and I strongly suspect some surprises. We've talked about new ships, and that's kind of where I'm at. If you want to see more lore, I'll have in the cards quite a few different lore options, but in the wiki, another link I'll have below, there's an entire series of these Far From Homes with Old Jagger. I did not read all of these, like as in dramatic readings, but I did go through these and read them as some like. I spent entirely too much time not realizing that Far From Home means that he's moving around. That Jagger and his ship, the Shauna, is not living in a specific system. Like I thought he was heading out on these adventures and then coming home to a specific location. And that may be the case, but he's kind of more of a nomad. When I finally got up to the new one, I was like, oh, that makes a lot more sense. If you read the ending where he talks about he's got to go find a new spot to hang out and hide. Because that's what he does. He's a nomad that moves around the verse and really enjoys that. So he's not exactly tied to one location at all times. And I thought that was kind of a really cool concept. So yeah, I thought if you enjoy these, please like and all that fun stuff, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you again to everyone who has already subscribed. We have a new community tab. Please feel free to check it out. Add some comments, add some thoughts. I'm going to have some polls in there very soon. And I'll have more behind the scenes content there and discussion points that maybe didn't make a whole video or I have not ready to put out a whole video. One example of that is the Game Glass system. CIG has officially supported Game Glass, and that is actually pretty exciting because they have rolled out a few different topics on that. I'm not going to weigh in this completely. I've had mixed results in testing in PTU 3.15. What are we at? O or something now? V. We're deep into the to the point where I'm in the latest PTU, and I had some animation issues with the emotes, but the advanced cameras and the avionics were pretty solid. There is an issue with the avionics. I found out about Quantum. I got to test it a little bit more, and the developers and the community are saying they're already working on fixing it. But it's a big undertaking, and it's very cool. Um, but I don't want to weigh in too much more about that. I highly suggest checking out the Game Glass free variant. I am not affiliated in any way. I'm not getting anything out of this, but I'll put the link for the RSI website explaining the process. They have some type of subscription process. I'm not going to recommend that. You can like buy an entire module for $3 forever. You don't need the subscription model. I think I picked up avionics and social for $10 and I'm done. Like, I'm not going to probably ever buy one again, but that's just my honest assessment. I think the pilot one's free. You could just use that and see if you even like it. See if this is something that would really help you as a tool. And if you're wondering what the heck we're talking about, what I'm on about, it's literally just you take your phone or an iPad or a tablet of any other type, and you can use it as your command system to input commands without having to hold F and search for it and click the button, or go into the personal and thought system or mobiGlass. It can activate a lot of different tools, camera systems, and your stuff in your cockpit without you having to do certain things. And it also works on person and vehicles and EVAs and such if you have different what they call shards, different modules added to it. So hey, I said I wasn't going to go too deep into it, and I made that mistake. I walked right into that one. But I hope you enjoy this. Thank you again for checking me out and seeing the lore side of things. Not a lot of folks like my lore videos, it seems. But the folks who do, thank you. I really enjoy making these, and I feel like it fleshes things out a little bit more. It certainly makes it a little less, numbers constantly. And also, I revamped my audio system. So if you've heard this far, give me some feedback. Comments below, or in public, or in private. Red hashtag 0001 on Discord. I'm always available to talk. People are still to this day. People are shocked. I will chat for an hour with you. I love talking about Star Citizen. I love anything tech related, and I will talk your ear off about. For your own sake, please don't mention VR. For your own sake. Y'all have a good night. Fly safe.